Regular meeting, January 3rd, 2023. Time is 7:30, and today is the first meeting of 2023, so I wish everybody a happy, healthy, prosperous new year. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so next on the agenda, there's no disclosure of executive session votes or approval of minutes. So now we'll go on to announcements and presentations. We'll get the town manager's report. Mr. Tierney.
Good evening, everyone. A few updates for this week, the first meeting of January 2023. Reminder to the community that the plastic bag ban for the Plastic Reduction Act for retailers has taken effect. Complaints will be funneled through our recycling director, who will investigate them and then turn the results over to the building official, who has the zone enforcement officer to take care of that. We've also made personal notifications to the larger retailers. We provided them a copy of the press release and the ordinance. They signed it with a name and a contact person. And we haven't got any complaints yet. It's only the third. The housing study RFP that was issued, we received one response from it. Mr. DeLuca and I met with the company on December 16th. We had quite a few questions for him about it, and when we're finished with that, Mr. DeLuca is now checking the references of the company. Once those references are completed and they come up positive, which we fully assume they will be because it was a very good interview with them, that we expect to put it before the town council in February for consideration. But keep in mind, when it is presented in February, the vendor said he would not be able to start the project until April of 2023. But again, all contingent upon council approval. COVID, we still have 3 town staff members out due to it, and if anyone in the room or at home needs test kits, please see someone in my office and we can get them for you. Storm cleanup. A big thank you to our DPW, Parks and Recreation crews, for the cleanup work they did after the storm, also for setting up the road closures to prevent folks from walking right into a bad situation. Fire and police also assisted with that. They did a great job cleaning up in front of the town beach, and it is appreciated. Budget preparation is now in full swing. We've begun meeting with department heads. The capital improvement projects have already been submitted and put together, and we'll keep you up to date as that goes. And as we continue with the weeklies, we'll continue to provide the year-to-date expenditures so that you'd be better informed as how we're preparing the budget to present to you. The bike path study. Staff has met with Deprete Engineering, and we've received an initial report that there is more wetland on the site than the town maps indicate based on soil types and vegetation. We continue working with Deprete and Rhode Island DEM for options. There's a lot of moving parts on this one with multiple agency involvement. I received an email from the Smiths, and I'm going to respond back to them after the meeting today to give them an update on it. Galilee, there's been no major advancement in this at this juncture. Again, we'd like to thank the University of Rhode Island students that gave a fantastic presentation to the public and the council. And although it seems like a very grandiose presentation, there were so many good things that could be gleaned from it, and hopefully we'll have a seat at the table to do that. However, I do have a meeting with DEM officials this month on a host of issues, including Galilee and Monahan's Dock, which we've requested funds be appropriated through OMB during the budget process because it is a state pier, but it's used by our emergency responders in that area, and it does need some upgrading for sure. But it happened over a period of time, and it really wasn't discovered until this summer that we saw how bad it was. Back in July, the town council approved the groin restoration at the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility. This month, we received finalization of the agreement that will be in place. Back in July, the council had approved it to apply for the grant and authorize the town manager to sign the agreements for the same after review by the town solicitor. That document, James has reviewed it. Staff has reviewed it, and it's ready to be executed. I just bring it to your attention because James had suggested it, and it makes sense because it took a while for DEM to come up with this agreement. We went back and forth with a lot of discussions, and it was finally finalized. So just as a reminder, because it's been several months. So absent any objections, I will sign that document and get it back to DEM. And if there was discussion on it, it could be done at another town council meeting as agenda item if anyone thought that was necessary. Because this is just an update, not an agenda item. I guess the final one would just be, I'd like to wish everyone on the town council, all our great staff, and those in attendance tonight, and those watching at home, a very healthy, happy, prosperous 2023, and a wish that your new year, my new year, and everybody in this room's new year is free from toxicity and filled with positivity. Good vibes, as I say. But I think a quote from the Governor McKee this morning, his inaugural address, summed up it quite well. Quoting from his speech this morning, "Let's stay focused, not on what divides us, but what makes us stronger. This really is a great community. We can do it, and our staff are here to assist you in any way we can. Thank you very much. All the best and stay well."
Thank you. So next we'll move on to the open forum public comment portion of the meeting. If anyone from the public wishes to speak on anything not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Mr. Vangamish.
I'm sorry, good evening. I'm hoping that we declare 2 years of peace and love rather than 2 years of hate and war. We have not been well served in that regard the last few years. We've just got to try to get rid of war and hate and peace and love. And that regard, I have a great respect for Lincoln Alman, our late governor, who, in my view, performed tremendously well as a governor. His son is a resident of Narragansett. So I'm hoping that we can show some peace and love and honor and respect our late governor. So I'm hoping that we can get some sort of a resolution honoring Governor Alman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Fleming in the back. Mr. Fleming.
Just in case anyone didn't notice, the flag is at half-staff in honor of Governor Alman's passing. It was issued today by the governor. It's town compliant as well.
Good evening. Terry Fleming from the Planning Board. I'm representing the Planning Board tonight to present to the council a resolution from our last meeting regarding the appointment of the Assistant Solicitor. We put an agenda item on last meeting. We had a discussion, and we put together a resolution, which I'll give to the clerk. The vote was unanimous in the strongest terms of our support for the reappointment of Mr. Marcella to the position of Assistant Solicitor. I understand there may be other boards here that are going to present similar initiatives. Understand that he works with essentially 3 boards in town: Planning, Zoning, Land Trust. That's about 100% of his activity. We had hoped that the council would come to the 3 boards, and maybe you still would, but we weren't going to wait around. We wanted to get out in front. We know that the solicitation is due either today or tomorrow, and that you're going to start evaluating people. We wanted you to know what we thought of Mr. Marcella, the work he's done for the planning board and for the town. When you look at all the criteria, his education, his experience, his knowledge of state law, his knowledge of Narragansett law, his advice, his attendance, which I know is a main point with the council when they reappoint positions. He's at every meeting. He answers every email. He gives us advice that is, very importantly, apolitical. He doesn't insert his own bias in advice. And most importantly, he keeps us within the guardrails of our authority. He lets us do what we are supposed to do, but if we drift outside of that, he brings us back in. Everything that you would want out of this position, I think he checks the boxes and more. I don't think there's any reason, our board doesn't think there's any reason to go and replace him with anyone because he's done such an exemplary job for us. We wanted to present this publicly to the council, and we want the public to hear it too, because it's important that our board and the other boards that may speak are the ones that he works directly with. And we hope that you consider this resolution and any others you receive, and I'm gonna give them to the clerk, and copies can go to all of you. So, appreciate your time.
Anyone else? Mrs. Ciliberto?
Catherine Ciliberto, 48 Rose Court. When the town council put aside $1.5 million of opera money to address our water issues, I naively said to myself, we're never going to spend $1.5 million because Veolia is responsible. Veolia is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and now it seems that the responsibility has been shifted to us. We're spending $196,000 on a consultant who, it appears, is implying that when the water gets to our tanks, that's when it gets tainted in some way. And our water comes from wells in Tuckertown. Tuckertown was farmland for years. It travels through miles of pipe. I can't imagine that it's coming to us crystal clear, and we're causing the problem. I don't want to roll over and play dead on this issue, in other words. If there's some way we can not spend that $1.5 million and push the cost off onto Veolia, I'd like to see us try to do it. Thank you.
Next. Mrs. Grinchenko?
Mary Ann Gonchenko, 221 Foddering Farm Road. I'd like to wish the town council a happy, healthy, and successful new year. The reason I decided to speak this evening is because I'm concerned about the workshop for the new library as requested by Jill Lawler. Everything is in place for our new library. OLIS has issued the approval for the building plans. They have very strict requirements and guidelines. Funding has been provided, and absolutely no changes can be implemented. The bond has been issued, and the construction contracts have been signed. Work is in progress. What is the purpose of a workshop? The previous town council provided informational updates at each and every town council meeting. Laurie Kelly and the library board has held informational sessions about the library. The last one was held on April 30th, 2022. Again, I do not understand why we have to have a workshop. All the information is documented, and you just have to do your homework. The library project needs to move forward. Any delays or change orders will increase the cost of the project. The library should have been built years ago, but the town councils in 2017 to 2200 procrastinated and delayed the project. As a result, cost of the project has skyrocketed. Building materials and construction costs have doubled. We are not building the library that we originally wanted because of all the calculated and intentional delays that cause monumental price increases to the project. When you ran for town council, each and every one of you stated that you support the library, which I found to be very disturbing because some of your voting records proved differently. Well, here is your chance. Prove to your constituents and the residents of Narragansett that you are honest and you stand by your word and support the library. Finish the library on time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Ms. Nato?
Mary Nato, 10 Second Street. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm just coming up to say I strongly encourage you to keep open forum at the beginning of the meeting so people with children and young families and elder folks who can't stay out that late at night can come and speak, and in our democratic process, they have their voices to be heard to the town council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
Hello and Happy New Year. I'm Tom Rogers. I'm the chair of the Land Trust. In December 5th, when you indicated that you were going to start the process to advertise to hire the assistant solicitor, and since the Land Trust is a client of Steve Marsal, who is the assistant solicitor, we thought it was important, essential, that you and the public hear from us as you make your decisions. Through the last couple of years, Steve has provided us with timely, accurate, and concise legal advice. He has always returned our calls, usually within a few hours at most, and he's even called us with advice and suggestions about an issue of which we were not aware. Over the last couple of years, he has led the negotiations and legal documents associated with the acquisition of 4 acres on South Pier Road, and he's also working on the documentation for a donation, one of which is you're going to be seeing this evening. I think it's agenda number 7. And he also helped us develop a donation policy, which we wanted to do to facilitate the easier donations of property to the town. He also worked with the Land Trust Council, thank you, Rupert Friday, and other attorneys to establish the abilities for towns to use public trust, the legal definition of public trust, to protect conservation properties. And as a result of which, Narragansett is the first town in only the 2nd state to afford public trust protection for conserved properties. And Steve was essential in that discussions. And lastly, he gave us a preliminary review of a potential effort to provide a preservation easement on a town property, a town building, which hopefully we'll be able to talk about later this year. So therefore, unanimously, the Land Trust approved a resolution strongly recommending that you hire or continue to engage Steve Marsal as a town's assistant solicitor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manning?
Good evening and Happy New Year. Jim Manning, Chairman of the Zoning Board. I'm here in support of Mr. Marcello. I have a resolution signed by all 7 members of the Zoning Board in support of Steve. It's been about 5.5 years that I've had the pleasure of working with him, and he's tremendous. He answers the questions, he returns your phone calls, sends the emails, and he's very much on target. And so I don't want to go on and on, but I think we're very fortunate to have him, and hopefully the council will look favorably on his reappointment. Thank you. If I may, I'll just
Thank you.
present this resolution.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no one else, let's move on to our consent agenda. Do any council members want to remove any items on the consent agenda? Hearing no, with motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Counselor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Next is new business from the engineering department. We have a motion to award the bid for the purchase of wastewater chemicals for potassium permanganate at $2.52 per pound, and for sodium hypochlorite 12% to 15% solution at $2.349 per gallon to Univar Solutions USA Incorporated, and for sodium bisulfate 38% solution at $3.40 per gallon to JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion by Counselor Cicilline Buonanno, seconded by Counselor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Next.
I'm an aye. Yeah, I thought we were going to have a discussion or something for, sorry.
Okay. Next, for community development, we have a motion to approve acceptance of the donation of land at Assessor's Plat K, lots 281 and 282 Francis Avenue, and to waive all taxes accrued on said lots year to date and authorize the town manager to execute the applicable tax donation form number 8283, acknowledging receipt of real property.
I'll move the motion.
Second the motion.
Okay, any discussion from the council?
No. Good job.
No, Mr. Rogers is here, maybe he'll want to speak.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak? Mr. Rogers?
I guess it's only fair since I brought it up initially. Yeah, the donation occurred as a result of an estate. It's in an area that does not have any natural or any sewer systems, so it's key for the stormwater management of that neighborhood, and we're actually hoping to be able to acquire property around that. The town land trust did review it. It met our acquisition criteria, predominantly because of the stormwater management issues. It's gone through the process, and it's a good donation, I think. It's fine.
Thanks.
Any questions, I guess?
I have,
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
yeah, I just have one question. I see the lot 281, and there's several other vacant lots around it. Is that still part of that estate? Are they,
No,
somebody
no.
keeping that, or is that a different ownership?
It's a different ownership, but I just indicated, very quietly, was the fact that there are other, we intend to, once this is done, we'll start looking at other properties to see if we can acquire them as well. They're unbuildable, they're all wet.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an area where the water goes when it rains. So we want to be able to do that to protect that area if we can.
Right. Okay, thank you.
But that's if you say yes, it'd be much easier for us today. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Any,
Thank you, Tom.
Any comments from the public? Hearing none. All in favor? Say
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion by Counselor Cicilline Buonanno, seconded by Counselor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda is a motion from Parks and Recreation Department. It's a motion to approve the Bobby Doyle 5-mile Summer Classic Road Race on Sunday, August 13th, 2023, subject to state and local laws. I have a motion.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any comments, any questions from the council? And from the public? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion by Counselor Cicilline Buonanno, seconded by Counselor Ferrandi. A motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is a motion to approve the request from Vet Surf Corps to conduct 2 free surfing events for disabled veterans at the town beach on Saturday, June 10th, 2023, and August 26th, 2023, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., subject to state and local regulations.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion? the council? Discussion from the public? Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Motioned by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno and seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. Next, we have a motion to approve the preparation and application of Pentec floor coating at 4 parks and recreation ladies and men's bathrooms, 1 concession area, and 1 closet, to be completed by DeStefano Brothers Construction Incorporated in the amount of $27,264.05. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this something that's in the budget, Michelle, from last year, or?
Good evening. Sir, this will be out of the capital budget. It wasn't originally planned to be pulled from capital this year, but due to the current condition of the restrooms, I felt that it was necessary to move forward with this project. Right now, just about all of our outlying restrooms in town, and I'm not sure if you've ever been to them, they're basically paint coatings, years and years of paint over concrete. Each year, throughout the winter and early spring, members of the parks maintenance staff, they will scrape away the paint, sand down to the concrete, and then paint again. The system is not working. It's causing ruts, holes in the concrete, and not a very good appearance for our restrooms. It's also quite difficult to get the smell, the urine smell out of the floor with the current process that we have. Also, as you know, the cleats, there's a lot of sports going on, individuals using these restrooms, so the cleats are really banging up the floors quite a bit. We had thought about doing this process earlier. In fact, we started with a restroom at the tennis building a couple of years ago. It's the same type of coating, and I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to use that restroom, but it's really holding up excellently. And also, as you know, this same process was recently done at our DPW garage, where they have big trucks, big pieces of equipment. So this system, though it is quite costly, this is a process that should last us for 25 or 30 years.
It's almost like an epoxy
It is,
material
sir.
with flake, and they put flaking in or paint, different paint
Correct,
chips.
correct. It's a several layer process, and then they put the flake material within the epoxy to assist with, obviously, the wear and tear, and also making it a non-slip type surface.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks for the explanation.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the public? Oh, Mrs. Celeberto.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I had this put on my floor in my garage in Florida. I doubt that it's going to hold up to cleats. I have an objection to the characterization that this is a single source contract. It is not. Every paint store sells this process. You scrape off whatever's on there, you put a first layer on, they give you a bag of chips, you throw them around, and you throw polyurethane on top of them. But the bottom line is this is $27,000 on public restrooms. To me, public restrooms, I mean, we don't need this kind of high-end finish on them, we really don't. We need some kind of paint, we need a big drain in the middle of the floor so I can hose it down every once in a while. That's my opinion, public restrooms. But we need playground equipment, a Boone Street playground. Now, Ms. Kershaw will say that's on the list, but I expect that to be on the list higher than than making public restrooms. It's pretty, it really is, but I don't think it's going to hold up to cleats, really, I really don't. And I just think it's too much money to spend right now when we have other priorities. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to add one more item, and that's to refer you to the sole source letter from DeStefano Brothers. they not only are the sole source of this high-quality Pentex flooring coating, but they have a special formula that's only known by their particular company. I'm not exactly sure how they mix the formula to make it better, but they do. They've provided that letter. And again, based on my conversations with the foreman of DPW, I do believe it's a good product. Also, I should say that to spend this money now and have the company come out in one shot and do all of these restrooms within a couple weeks period will obviously save us money in the long run, and not having to have the company come out each year after year after year and then charge us that fee for, again, getting all the trucks ready, getting all the material re-ready again. So I do believe we are getting a discount for doing all of the restrooms at this particular time.
Thank you. I did see some other individuals who would like to comment, but I'm going to actually have to break to the public hearing, and it's 8 o'clock. So we have a motion to schedule a public hearing to amend the text of Section 5.5, the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, entitled Zoning, for the purpose of adding a new historic zone, 170 Clark Road, the Camp. The suggested date for the hearing is March 6, 2023.
Move the motion to open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Are we going to do a date? Is that a good date?
Yeah, March 6, 2023. This is just for scheduling.
It's a regular meeting. That's a regular town council meeting, right? Yeah, okay.
Any comment from the public? Hearing none. Motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0 with the date scheduled of March 6, 2023. Now we have a motion to refer this request to the Planning Board for review and recommendation.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, so we're getting back to our motion to approve the preparation application of Pentex floor coating. Anyone from the public? I think I saw a hand up earlier. Dr. Alba.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I know Michelle, she does her due diligence, and I appreciate that. And I think something definitely has to be done. There is a company out of Massachusetts, which they have the same formulary as Stefano Brothers. I can email you their contacts. I don't know if Michelle was in contact with this company or not. They actually offer a lifetime warranty on their particular product. So I can share that with Michelle if she's interested. But on the other hand, if time is of the essence and they have to book this next week without getting another bid for the process, well, then I guess we'll have to go with the Stefano Brothers. But I can provide that to the town council and to Michelle if you guys would like another bid. It's a very reputable company, 5 stars across the board. It's been advertised in the Journal, et cetera. So it's your call, but I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, so we're going to take a vote on this motion. And it's a motion to approve the preparation and application of Pentex floor coating at 4 parks and recreation, ladies and men's bathrooms, 1 concession, 1 area, and 1 closet to be completed by DeStefano Brothers Construction Incorporated in the amount of $27,264.05. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motioned earlier by Counselor Cicely Bonanno, seconded by Counselor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda from the town solicitor, we have a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 58 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Retirement and Pensions, specifically Normal Retirement Benefits, Section 25A, B, and C. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Discussion? Any
I
questions?
just have a question. Is this an adjustment to what was already negotiated, or is this something that was negotiated previously, and this is just?
This came up during COVID due to an issue that I don't really want to get into, but the question was whether a firefighter, after he or she vests, after 10 years, could he or she start collecting their pension at that time? The language wasn't very clear in the ordinance, and this is an attempt to clarify that, to make sure that, say, someone who comes on the force at age 20, retires at age 30, doesn't start collecting a pension at age 31, and then for the next 50 years is on the town's payroll in effect. This is just a way to clear up that situation. It didn't come to fruition in the situation that occurred earlier in COVID, but this is a way to cut that off at the pass in case something else happens in the future.
And the idea is that someone cannot collect pension until they're at least, they achieve the age of 58, plus the 10 years. Including the 10 years.
Right,
Yeah.
I think it's either 58 or having reached 20 years of service.
Right.
Any other council members?
Makes sense to me.
Questions?
Thank you.
Anyone from the public? Mr. Van Germisch?
Yeah, there really is a need to show on the screen what we're talking about here. I realize you have a bigger agenda, but those in the audience have no clue in the world as to what Section 25A, B, and C is and what the issue is. I remain tremendously concerned about the promises we have made in pensions to our employees. I think there have been extremely extravagant, but I have no ability to make a comment about Sections 25A, B, and C because I didn't memorize them.
Dr. Alba?
Yes, Dr. Al Albert, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I agree with the professor. I think the doctor has some valid points. I'm an educator going on 31-plus years, and as a result of the Gina Raimondo pension reform deal, she did cut into my pension and many other people's pensions. I do recognize if people are tenured and they've invested, I don't think anyone should have a right to change that pension, as what happened to many state workers. Obviously, if we have new workers who are coming up going forward, then we should look at, in regards to possibly putting in a investment vehicle instead of a guaranteed pension. So I just wanted to share that with you because, we want to look at the bottom line for everyone's tax dollars, and also, God forbid, when you get older, if you die, you're not even going to be able to benefit from this guaranteed pension, which some people had. So just some words of thought, and I agree with the professor. If maybe we could see what we're talking about and discussing to have more of a clue, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Is anyone else from the public? Mrs. Ciliberto?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I just want to say that Mr. Vangamish and Mr. Alva's comments were not directed toward the agenda item. The agenda item is cleaning up a language. That's all it is. And somebody has to keep people on track when they get up here. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so anyone else from the public wishing to speak? If not, we'll be taking a vote on a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 58 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Retirement and Pension, specifically Normal Retirement Benefits, Section 25A, B, and C. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion earlier by Councilor Siciliano, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Next, from the Town Council, we have a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an amendment to ordinance to change start time of regular council meetings from 7:30 to 7 p.m.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? It's a second reading. Anyone from the public? It's a second reading. Dr. Alva.
Yes, Dr. Al Albert, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. Yeah, I can understand, especially with the weather getting colder, and we do have seniors who might want to attend who can benefit with an earlier start time. So I do agree with that, and I'm totally understanding of that. I don't know if we could possibly move the open forum to 7:30, maybe have the consent agenda start, have that change at a bit of a time. That way there, people such as myself, like today, case in point, I was running a little bit late. I will always be running late, except on school vacations. I'll be here during school vacations in summertime. But if that could be maybe considered down the road by the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Siciliano, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Next is an agenda item. It's a motion to adopt new council rules. That was put on by me, and I'll just go over first. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, so discussion. So let me introduce this motion. So this, I have a presentation. So the next slide, it just gives some of the background for this and where this is coming from. So prior to the meeting, to us being our first meeting, I had asked our town clerk, Janet Taro, what the processes are or council rules are from other municipalities. And I always like to benchmark and check to see what other towns and cities are doing. So she was attending a meeting, so she sent out a query, and she actually got to speak with a lot of town clerks from other cities and towns. And one of the questions were, several questions like, do you have open forum? When do you have it? How do you limit it? And there are a series of questions that we queried, and part of it was assessing to see what others do for town council rules. And then so we reviewed the various rules and procedures that I found from other towns and cities. And we collaborated with town clerk Janet Taro, and we reviewed it with our town manager, just because there were, rules that had the town manager in it, and we just wanted to make sure that it was right. And then basically, it was formatting. I remember when I first got on council, it was my first council term, and of course, our first term was a COVID term, so we were remote, we were Zoom. And I remember getting the binder, turning to the pages, like, all right, what is this going to entail? Let me see these rules. And what I found was it wasn't it didn't really explain much to me, and it wasn't really rules. It was a lot of definitions of what a consent agenda item is, just basically defining things and not really having rules. So I thought it was important to just format it in a way where we could all understand what the rules of the council are. And it's something that, each council term, they can determine what the rules would be for their council, because it would be voted on the town council. So again, this is just an introduction into kind of the work that went into it for the council to decide. So I'll just go over some of the changes that may be relevant to the future. First of all, we just had a second reading for the time change. So we had our meetings previously at 7:30, so we changed it to 7 p.m., and those are our regular meetings per the recent ordinance change. And of course, we all know that those are on the first Monday and the third Mondays. There's a section here that has the work session dates. If you reference our town charter, it states that our work session dates will be on the second and fourth Mondays. And I know in the past, even last meeting, we had work sessions that were, on different days, or this last meeting we had one that was before our regular meeting. This is just to, I know I'm a busy person, I'm sure all of us are busy, just being able to have the Mondays free and knowing that, during the council terms, that, we would keep our Mondays open and going forward so that we could schedule our work sessions, and then the general public would know that if we do have work sessions, they would typically be held on the second and fourth Mondays as per the town charter. A lot of municipalities do a sign-in sheet for open forum. I think it's important. I don't like referring to somebody like you in the back or the gentleman in the back. Luckily, I knew most of you today. Jill had to help me with one. But I think it's easier to have a sign-in sheet. So I think most people, when they come to a council meeting for open forum, they know they want to speak. And that's not saying that our residents aren't going to be given the opportunity if they don't sign in, like say something comes up during the meeting that they weren't anticipating on speaking on, but then all of a sudden they wanted to speak. And of course, as the presiding officer, I would allow that, like just leading the meeting. And I'm very, very sensitive to the fact that I do want to hear from the public. So this in no means is a way to just assign in and the limiting of open forum. And it is going to be at the beginning, closer to the beginning of the meeting. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Part of it was also the agenda setting timeline. I'm new to being part of the agenda setting, so I meet with our town manager and our town clerk. There's a lot of work that goes into agenda setting, so you have to have timelines and deadlines to make sure that things get on and they're complete. It's really difficult when there's last-minute add-ons or changes. So that clearly sets the expectations for the council members to have all the agenda done, and submitted by Monday of the week preceding. So we're always constantly, it's the Monday we have the agenda setting, the next Monday we have the meeting, and this time frame and timeline is similar. I think it's the staff, the town staff also has to adhere to this. And this is because we do the agenda setting on Tuesday. The other change was the agenda posting time. And this is what we, as council members, all see the agenda. It's posted at the same time we receive it, sometimes just a little bit before it's posted to the website to the general public. And that changes from 4:30 to 6 p.m. And that's just to give our town clerk a little sanity and give her a little leeway there, because it is a lot of work putting these agendas together. And then added to that was the council rules that they would be reviewed biannually in January. And then there were some new rules that were added. And again, these aren't rules that I made up. They're rules that have been implemented in other towns and municipalities, and they're also structured by Robert's Rules of Orders. So if you reference Robert's Rules of Order, you'll find a lot of these rules in there. So Rule 6 was the town staff, and I'll get into these a little bit more. And then Rule 7 was regarding accessing electronic messages and browsing the internet for town business. When I was doing some research, I came across an interesting article that, when during meetings, board meetings, and this applies even to, regular boards, but especially, I would say, government, when we have members of the council accessing electronic messages, it can be perceived as an open meetings violation. It could be communications with, residents who may try to, communicate with a member, or, council member to council member, and that's just basically not allowing the general public to have that. So when we're here at a meeting, this is a public meeting, so any kind of discussion should be public, so everybody should know anything that's being discussed. So that was, again, not something I made up. It's a best practice actually, most municipalities are adding language like this to their rules. Another one was Rule 9, and that's regarding discussion debate. And as a new council member last term, I actually sat where Councilor Ferrandi's sitting, and sometimes, everybody gets to speak once, and oftentimes, sometimes I'd get skipped over, or other people would speak twice before I would speak. So I also wanted to make sure that in here, there's sets of rules. I think rules and order would make our meetings more efficient, and that's the whole intent. So just having the counselors speak when addressed. So it covers all that. That's what the rule is. And there's no conversations while members are speaking, vote being taken, items being read, or question or motion is being stated by a presiding officer. Again, straight out of Robert's Rules of Order, not made up by me. And finally, the next slide is just the Rule 15, and then that's recusal process. And this is if there is a conflict and a council member has to recuse themselves, that council member leaves the dais and actually either leaves the chamber or sits to the back. And that's just a best practice also, because nobody should be sitting in the front row, kind of, not that anyone is trying to be intimidating anyone for voting, but that's just, again, the best practice. And even like when we were doing on the Zoom meetings, I know, we had a council member who had to recuse himself, and at that point you turn your microphone off and you turn your camera off. So that's, again, just the general rules. And then the adjournment, just changing it, we're meeting earlier, changing from 11 to 10. Most municipalities their meetings don't go long. I'm not saying that our meetings, when we have certain issues or topics that we need to discuss, yes, they may go longer, but that's just kind of setting the precedent and trying to make sure that we stay efficient and timely. And again, having rules as guidance will help us be more efficient, I believe. So I know some of the council members saw these rules already. Everybody reviews their packets, and I know I got some great feedback from Councilor Kopech, and she did have some great comments, and she did some great wordsmithing. She spent some time on it, so she gave that feedback. So there were some items in here that we could modify, delete, amend. So again, this is for our council. This is not just me making the rules. It's for the council, and every council member has a say in these rules. So with that being said, I will ask if any council members have any comments. Just let me know who wants to speak first, and we can address any issues.
So are we going to go through, I mean, I have what exists, and I have your motion, and I'm trying to figure out the changes, but it's really hard to follow, to be honest with you, with the document. So I think if we are going to talk about this tonight, we really probably should take time to go through each and every, what exists and what you're proposing, because it's pretty hard to follow. I'm just being
So much hasn't really changed. It's just, again, the formatting has changed. A lot of it stayed the same. I know Councilor Kopech did a side-by-side, and
I didn't actually do a side-by-side. I did a red line of
a red line, yeah. So she did a lot of the red lines.
But I did read them side-by-side.
Yeah.
So can I?
So I would start, I'll start with Counselor Kopek because she did a lot of the research on it, and I would welcome any feedback.
So what I actually think we should do is table this and let everybody provide their own feedback, and then we put a final document together. There are a couple of rules. I know that, you did a lot of work to get information from other towns, but this is not other towns, this is Narragansett. And I think that there are a couple of rules that we could immediately eliminate that are in here. And they would be 13 and 14, because I don't really even understand what they mean. And I've never seen anything like them before. I didn't have time to research them in other towns, but I just don't think they make too much sense to us. I also don't agree with a couple of points here that I think we need to reconsider. I'll take, for example, the idea of moving the end of our meeting to 10 o'clock. When we had meetings that went past 11, every 15 minutes, we had to re-up our ability to work. And I'd hate for that to happen, especially if we had a situation where we had a very long public hearing, which is usually what caused our meetings to go late. And when that happens, we have to remember to do it, and it's very disruptive to whatever we're talking about. Trust me, I do not want to be here past 11 o'clock, but I can see being here between 10 and 11, and I just as soon, make it as easy as possible for us. So that's just an example of something that I think we should consider. I have some concerns about the idea of always having a sign-up sheet for open forum. One of the things that's so important to me is the ability of the people of this town to speak out in these meetings. That's one of the reasons we're here, is to listen to what you have to say. Very often, some of the issues that come up from the residents are things that we hadn't thought about, and I think it's really important that we have the freedom to actually, ask a question, or to probably, even if we don't answer the question, or to listen to another thought that might not have come up when somebody had the opportunity to hit a sign-up sheet. And I also kind of think sign-up sheets have the deleterious effect of making people a little nervous about signing up. So those are just a couple of the issues. I just, so you can see, I have 6 pages that look like this. So I really think that what we should do is, if everybody would go through this kind of the same way I did and take a look at what we had, what we have, see if there's anything. So example, right up there it says the regular meeting format, which is good, but it's not incorporated into this.
I had that, and Janet said.
As an addition.
She actually stated that we should take it out just in the event that we
But
would
I
need to
think we
change it
could
out.
put it, even if we put it in as an addendum, just
Yeah.
so that we knew that we had that format, and that is the format, and we're not changing it. I think somebody came up earlier and said not to put open, or maybe to put open forum, I don't know, in a different place. It's good where it is, it fits well, and it makes it possible, I'm sorry, Dr. Alba, it makes it possible for a lot of people to come and speak who might not otherwise be able to. So there's a lot, I mean, we could do this line by line. I don't think we want to do that tonight.
No, so what I was thinking is we could, if anyone, any other council members have any comments, we could definitely take comments from the public, and then we'll see where that goes, and then anyone else wishing to speak? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to make one other comment, and that is that I'd be happy to work on the finalization of this, because that's, since I started all this, it's the least I can do.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Counselor Cicely Bonato, do you want to comment on
I
it?
think what Deb said is really going to be helpful. I mean, it is, we want to get it right, and we want to make sure it makes sense and it works for Narragansett. And I really tried to go through it as well. There were a lot of new things added, like the recusal process. I've done that for a number of years. That's new language. So there's a lot of things that are added. Some are great, some same thing, I'm saying, well, what does that really mean? So let's do it the right way and go through it, or come back with something in a better state of kind of what represents, I think, what everybody's saying tonight. Because the format, I think the existing one is a lot easier with the bold to follow the meeting piece. The format to me is easier than what's presented, but I mean, so I think it needs some work as well, and I'd be happy to, add my input, but I think that some of it's good and some of it doesn't really need to be there.
Thank you. Counselor Ferranzi?
Yeah, I think some of the frame act that you've added is good, you know what I mean? Some of it is good. It is a lot at once to kind of, but a lot of it is, like you said, does clarify a lot of some of the issues, and, if we have to go later, I suppose we can go later. The rules are, they're rules, but I mean, it's not that they can't be adjusted if needed, even on, some of the public hearings. If we can't make them on a certain Monday, maybe have them to another, but maybe we should try to stick to the charter as best as we can. So, I mean, there's some good, a lot of good things in there, but if people have an issue where they want to speak on it a little bit, I mean, I don't really have that big of an issue on everything. I kind of like the, the changes, but, if this is a first look and we can kind of hone it down a little bit and maybe home in on some other issues, I'm fine with that.
Councilor Lawler?
So I did review the existing rules and compare them to these, and really what I see with these rules is, in many ways, very consistent with the existing rules. However, these rules incorporate the Robert's Rules of Order more openly and more detailed, and I personally do think that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have rules and to be able to have them enforced. There are some things, I mean, I agree with Deb as far as the time, 10 to 11, but I don't think that ever saying is a drop dead at 10. I mean, yes, you would have to say extend the meeting, and really, is that big of a deal? I don't know that really is. As far as the sign-up sheet, I had actually discussed this with Eva today. One for you there, Dr. Alba. I said, what about Dr. Alba? He can't make it till 7:30. And she said, well, of course, if he would like to speak and he can't be there and he wants to speak on an item not on the agenda, he can speak at the end on open forum. So she's already thought of you. The Alba rule right there. But I do believe it's a good idea to have this. There really aren't that many changes. A couple of things as far as electronic devices, I agree with you. I don't think that we should be, I put my phone away. Well, it's the agenda, and I have no idea, no problem sharing what the agenda is, but I don't think that we should be communicating with people in the audience or at home. I think there's a big difference there. And I actually remember you at the last meeting, Deb, saying that you need to use your computer because you don't want to kill trees and print out paper, and I happen to agree with the same. So to be able to have it, and I have no problem at any point in time, should the town manager or town solicitor want to come and take a look at what I'm looking at on my computer, they could. As a matter of fact, I think it's even an APRA request issue that someone could do that as well, so that's not a problem. So I really do think that these are more formalizing the rules, and I think that's a good thing. There might be some things to take out, and I suggest that tonight we might want to take a look at that. One, I mentioned to Eva that I didn't agree with is the rule concerning contacting of the town solicitors. It appears here that she's looking to have that go through the town manager, and I really do believe that we should all have the ability to contact our solicitors whenever we feel we need to. The town solicitors and the town managers, to remind everyone in the audience, they do report to the council, so I do see that as a necessary thing. However, as a courtesy, I know I always copy in the town manager on any communications with the solicitors and or the department heads. So I think a good thing tonight, these are good rules, a lot of work should put into it, and I think that if we want to take out a few things that are causing people not to want to embrace them, let's do that. The first thing that Eva mentioned, that this is going to be for the rules for 2 years while this council is in existence. So should the next council come in and want to change the rules, well, so be it.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Ms. Amoruso, sorry, my glasses. Mrs. Amoruso.
Sue Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive. I mean, I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm thinking it's a lot of information. We haven't had a lot of time to examine it. I just jotted down some notes that suppose you don't sign in, like you're saying, and something comes up and you do want to comment in open forum, suppose the president doesn't recognize you. That's not really covered in here. Suppose that person decides, nope, not going to talk to you. I don't think that's addressed. And then I was wondering, did our town solicitor go through all these to check on the legality of all these? Because just because another town does it doesn't mean it's right, because they could be in violation of some things. And especially this whole thing with electronic devices. I mean, I just think, where is this coming from? We shouldn't be communicating. How would you know who we were communicating with? Is somebody going to walk around and do kind of look at what you're doing on your phone? Suppose you're checking in with your kids. We want parents to come Suppose they're checking on, did you do your homework? You know, they're waiting for that kind of messaging. Suppose you check on an elderly parent. I mean, you know, there's lots of things here. Suppose you've got a job and you need to communicate with them. So you're not disturbing anybody. No one has cell phones ringing in these things. Suppose you're here for one item and you're just checking your email. I don't see that that should be a problem. And actually, I think by restricting that we have to put our phones away is actually a violation of my personal freedom. I should not be told that I can't have a cell phone.
Sorry,
Or if I
I'm
wanna
just
look
going to
at
interject. This just applies to the town council. So with the phone,
Oh.
like not having the phone because we are
Well, I don't
making
think
rules.
it's clear.
Well, we'll
And
make it clear.
Suppose they want to, suppose any of you want to look up some item that, you know, you're not sure of, and you wanted just a little bit more information.
Can do that on the
Something about
iPad.
the sewer.
Yeah, computer, iPad.
So why should you not be allowed for that? And who's going to police this? I don't know, it just seems like unnecessary, and I've really never seen anything like that in another thing. So I just think that some of the things, firming it up, yes, but some of these things are just, I don't even think they're parts of Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, keep on referring to that. But I think some of them are, but some of them aren't. And I'd just like to have a legal opinion on whatever we adopt before we adopt it, you know, to know that everything is on the up and up, so we won't have the American Civil Liberties Union saying to us, oh, well, you know, here's another violation for Narragansett, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The town solicitor reviews all the agenda items, so let me just refer to Mr. Callahan. Did you see any issues with these town council rules? I know, you know, since Robert's rules, like, meetings have changed. There are electronic devices. I know, I think it's just important to address that. And in terms of Mrs. Amoruso's comments about, I mean, it does not apply to anybody out there. It's just strictly, because I remember during my first term, I was getting text messages from constituents. I was getting, you know, every now and then I get one from a council member, and I just think that's wrong, because I think anything that happens up here, any conversations, everybody needs to hear, because that's the public. That's for the public. These meetings are for the public. So,
I don't think there's any legal issues with the proposed rules. I'd have to check just to be sure. I just don't, nothing pops out on the glance or the review that I thought was anything that would be illegal.
right. I know, I thought they were straightforward, but, okay, Mr. Vandermeesh? Mr. Vandermeesh?
This is a classic case where this should be a first reading, and it's fine. Everybody has seen this. We've had a brief discussion on some points, but to vote on this tonight without, I think, enough study of it, I think is maybe premature. I think we could look at this as a first reading. We've heard comments, and we'll get more comments, and then perhaps next meeting or the meeting after, we'd be in a position to vote on it. And we might want to vote on it item by item. We might want to vote on it totally. There may be amendments by items, but if we treat this as a first reading, I think we're a lot better off.
Thank you. Mrs. Ciliberto?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. Now, you're not going to believe this is coming from me, but these are town council rules. You people should get together and set the rules you want. I'm not quite sure about public input on this matter. I don't really think it's appropriate, to tell you the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nato?
Mary Nato, 10 Second Street. I do believe the public should have input, especially with the placement of the timing of the open forum, allowing people to be here and speak, and also how long the meeting's going to run. I know having been on a lot of calls where I went to 11, 11:15, 11:30, it was very time-consuming to get the vote all the time. So I do think people should have a vote on what's going on, at least having word on it, and I definitely believe the open forum should be early. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go, Dr. Alba.
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. Yeah, I don't really see too much change from what we had before. I know we're going to be starting a half hour earlier. So I don't know if maybe the end time, make it a half an hour, 10:30 instead of going from 11 to 10. I don't know if that, that's some kind of compromise. That's just throwing that up there. I do appreciate you allowing people to speak at the end who could not make it in the beginning, so thank you very much, Councilwoman, both of you, for bringing that suggestion up. So that's very appreciative. And, I'm not going to tell any of you how to do your jobs. You guys are all veterans. You guys have been around for a while. So, but I think having input, like you're hearing me speak and hearing other people speak, I think that's always a good thing. But I don't see anything earth-shattering or anything like our town solicitor said. There's nothing, I don't think, which is in violating of any kind of Robert's rules. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this is actually an agenda item that was put on me, so I am going to make a motion to continue this to the next scheduled meeting, which is January 17th, 2023, where we can get the feedback and have a modified version of this with inputs.
I will move that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion by Deb, seconded by Councilor Franzi. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have Town Council Agenda Item number 14, which is a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing bonds and direct the town manager to present possible prioritized projects and project schedule timeframe for the road improvement, public buildings, and other public infrastructure for the $20 million bond that was passed overwhelmingly on November 8th, 2022.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
So this motion was put on the council agenda last meeting, and I wanted to give the information to the council, and I know the town has it. Dave Ferrara, the bondsman, said you can authorize, his recommendation was, as the town practice has been, you authorize the full amount, and then you use it as you need. And Chris is here tonight. She also had communication, so maybe you want to come up and just reiterate that, but it's just to authorize the bonds. And so that $20 million doesn't mean we have to spend it all tomorrow. It means we're just giving that authorization.
Jim, did you want to speak to it, or would you like Christine to come up?
Christine can follow up after I speak on it. I think it was a little confusing to some people when they read it, and it was to myself and Christine as well. And as Susan had stated, the agenda item is to authorize the issuance of bonds up to the $20 million. So it's our interpretation is the council's intent to spend the $20 million, but to state that they plan on issuing them in tranches based on the projects that are planned, and to maintain our financial stability in the town, to issue them in chunks that match, work well for our bond rating and whatnot. And that's the understanding of it, where we would provide projects that need to be done. The council would then authorize the issuance of a portion of the bond up to $20 million, then a portion of the bond as the projects are assigned. Because it would be great if we could get a ton of projects and get everything done, but at once. But the vendors aren't available. The timeline on engineering is astronomical, and RFPs for instance, the town hall, we're going to put out an RFP on update the old RFP from IGB for this building. But it's, as it was involved in communications with bond counsel, and that was the understanding when we walked away from it, that it's the council's intent to issue up to $20 million, and the staff would approach the council with the recommended amount through the finance director as we go.
Yeah, so, and Jim, I just want to add too, because the last council had the projects, the possible projects, and this council doesn't really have that. And so with that 20 million authorization are those projects going to be the same? And what are the priorities to the town? Are they different now? Are they going to be the same? So that's really the second piece of it. It's we need to authorize the bonds, but are those projects, I mean, the taxpayers overwhelmingly passed that. Are those projects going to be the same possible projects, or are they going to be different? And that was the second piece of this motion, not only to authorize, but to bring those projects back at some point to the council so we can see, are they the same? Is there a difference? Did you take something out? Did you add something?
Many of the projects were identified in the initial bond and priority. At this juncture, that has not changed what was provided to the council through the referendum item. And there will be some changes over the period of time that we will be recommending to the council. For instance, as you know, some of the ARPA money for projects that were designated for ARPA funds that were absolutely necessary, and the council believed they were. So we did take some money from some of these projects, such as the renovations of the fire station. We have fire stations because we have more firefighters. We have female firefighters. We have to be concerned about appropriate lodging for all of them, and that is a necessary project. But we did take some money from that to cover the emergency replacement of one of the engines. So some of those things will be slid back into it. The part of the bond that's for buildings, such as your town hall, we do have an old, I think it was from 2016 maybe, from Robinson Green Beretta on this building. Myself and Steve Dano are in the process of rewriting a new RFP to get an updated cost for the renovations that we're recommending to this building. That will be one of the changes, not so much the building renovations, but the cost and the scope, because we don't know what that is until we get the RFP out and we get a response. So some changes will take place, but the ones that are in the original bond, those are the ones right now that we're recommending.
Because it was worded possible. That's why I just wanted to, as the taxpayers voted for those, the bond, those projects could change, and I wasn't sure if they had, but wanted this council to have that information as well as authorizing the spending of the bonds.
Any recommended changes we brought to the attention of the council as soon as possible. And again, as you know, things change rapidly in town. Something can go wrong tomorrow. But we will update some of the major projects that need to be updated, such as Town Hall through an RFP, and any changes in the roads, because if something happens with the infrastructure underneath them, if one of them collapses, that goes to the front of the line.
Yeah, because it's 15 million for the roads, correct?
Correct.
So that's the biggest thing to the taxpayers. Everybody keeps asking about their roads, when are their roads going to be done? So I'd just be curious to see, when we get that far, what specifically is going to be happening on those roads.
We do have an extensive list on roads that are scheduled, but we have to wait, most of the time we have to wait on the engineering firm. For instance, Beta looks at every road in town. They did a full assessment of all the roads in town. They have a scaling. They're the professionals, the engineers, and they look at each of the roads and they grade them by usage, safety, whether they need ADA and whatnot. They provide us the list, and it's been our practice that we adhere to that list because it just makes sense.
No, I know, that seems to be the biggest thing of that 15 million is the road. People ask about that all the time, and I know we went through that 27 million in a fairly short amount of time, and it took a long time because of the permits. But just on this particular thing, just authorizing the money and then just seeing as those projects change or what they are, just keeping the council abreast of that.
We anticipate to post them regularly online on the roadway improvement program on the website, which we have done. And in addition to that, we still have $2.6 million left on the old bond. All that money is encumbered, though, already for road projects, and we know which roads they're assigned to. It still won't cover the roads that we have it assigned to.
But
That's when this bond was going to...
2.6 was from the last council, right?
From the last bond,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That's the end of the money of the last bond.
Yeah, I remember.
Question, so I think we are trying to say, Jim, is there's a process on how to use the money, and it's a time lagged and all that sort of stuff, so we don't want to put the cart before the horse, per se. We want to have our ducks in a row and take it out, so it's not a shock to the system of the budget. That's, that.
I
that's
didn't,
all right.
I didn't write the blue sheet itself.
Okay.
That was written by the sponsor.
Well, the response that you had, that makes sense how you would work the bond, as opposed to saying, okay, let's authorize all the 20, we'll get that money in and just figure out how to spend it later. I think it's a lot of money, so it needs the general process. The last time it was, 2017, the bond, so, 2000, yeah, something like that, so.
I think it was 17, I'm not sure.
Yeah, whenever the last one was a $17 million one, I mean, we still have some money on that, so it has to be well thought out. I'm sure we have to talk to bond counsel, maybe if it's something that we might have to do a work session on, just to kind of.
So I
Clear
just
it down
want to
a-
clarify, because Dave Ferrara, the bond counsel, suggests to authorize the 20 million, and then you spend it as you need pieces. But that's been the tradition in the town. That's what he's asking us to do. Are you on the same page with me? Are you?
Here is my understanding, I'll use my words.
All right.
That I believe the agenda item, the way it is written, is that you're asking the council to approve the issuance
Yes.
of up to the 20
20
million,
million,
because
yes.
it's the council's intent to use this, 15 million for infrastructure, 5 million for buildings, et cetera, and to rely on the town staff to provide the information
Yes.
to the council for the projects for approval, so we can come up with a number for you, and we can easily come up with $20 million of projects, but that's not going to happen. But we'll provide the list to you. We'll work with finance and bond counsel on what portion to issue to stay financially sound in the town to complete
Yeah,
this accomplishment.
yes, and again, I'm just going to reiterate, Dave Ferrara, the bondsman, helped with the motion, so that, I just wanted to make sure, I want to make sure we do the 20 million, because he said that's been the practice, that's the best way to go, and so I'm just want to be on the same page on that.
That was, what I just said was my interpretation of it. I'd like to
Correct.
ask Christine just to come up for a minute, if you
Yeah,
could, our
that would
finance
be
director.
great.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So yes, I talked to David Ferrara as well, and it's just to authorize that when we move forward, at some point in the future, we're going to issue bonds up to the $20 million. We can't issue $20 million in bonds at once, because it's got to be spent by 2 years, and it's just, you just don't do that. Plus, we don't have enough money for that. And we have debt ratios that we have to follow in accordance with the state laws, and so we don't issue $20 million at one time. It's going to be over the next 10 years, maybe 12 years, like we did with the 2012 bond for the 17 million. It took 10 years to spend that, a little bit at a time. 3 million, he had 2.6, So there's like an approximate schedule that was presented before on how that would be spread out over the next 10 years to go to bond, to issue bonds. Right now, we're just authorizing that we can issue bonds in the future. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Good?
Any other council members have questions or concerns? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Mr. Vandermeer, you have your hand up, right? Yes.
I'll make the same comment I did when this original motion came up, maybe last year, that I thought this was the loosey-goosey way of operating. I was joined in that comment by Dennis Lynch, and we compared it to the other bond issues in which the work that the town manager is to do was done before the bond went out to vote. And it isn't a good idea that we study what we want to do after we get the bond. All of this should have been done before we get the bond. And which we did on both road projects. We had massive studies before we voted. This wording here, we've already authorized the issues of these bonds. Now we've got to plan when we are going to issue them. And so I think it's quite inappropriate to say we're authorizing the bonds. We voted, we authorized them. We have to now plan how to issue them. And we really, unfortunately, have to do a great deal more work on this. And we get the managers and the staff's recommendations, and we really, truly study them and see where we want to allocate those $20 million and when we want to allocate those $20 million. And the process, we just got to get rid of this loosey-goosey way of operating. It just is lousy finance.
Thank you. Mr. Zanfrillo?
Hi, Paul Zanfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. I'm puzzled, I'm with Dr. Vandermeesh. I'm puzzled as to why we wouldn't get the staff to present a timeline of when we'd execute these bonds. Our town manager tells us he's got plenty of ways to spend the money. Put the timeline all together, get that approved by the council, and then draw down on the bonds. It really feels like there's another agenda here. It feels like that and buildings is to backdoor more money into the library. And so if we're going to do that, you should put it out there on paper. I mean, it is so fiscally irresponsible to pull down the credit card. It's like taking a cash advance on your credit card and then deciding how you're going to use it later. We, the taxpayers, deserve to know how this money is going to be spent. The council should approve the use of that before they authorize that. Certainly, 1 more week is not going to make any difference, or 2 more weeks to have the staff put that together. It's not going to make any difference. So I urge that you get the list first, then you authorize. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this agenda item?
Actually, I just want to, Chris, you're motioning, you have the list, correct? Yes, so there is a plan in place, and the finance director can come and elaborate on that, please.
I don't have a list. Is it in the blue sheet?
I don't know what people have in front of them or at home, but in the packet, you did have the potential projects, and they were potential for a lot of reasons. And in the past, you have issued bonds, and they're not spent because they were so specific, they couldn't be used on anything else. So they're sitting in limbo from 1999, and we can't use them because they were too specific. And those projects are done, and whatever happened, happened. So that's why it was a little bit more free here. And we need a lot of work on town hall, especially ADA accessibility. Number 2 is that the roads that Mr. Vandermeesh is talking about, that study was just expanded. So that big study was done. We got halfway through phase 3. We went back with the Beta Company, and they looked back at the streets again, finished phase 3, almost like a part B of phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, and phase 6. So the study is already done. They went out and did a restudy of the streets. Those are listed, and those give a priority of what needs to be done and what phase. And there's also a copy of the study on the website. There's a link, and it also has a map that has a legend of what was done. And otherwise, I mean, it's not really that loosey-goosey, and the study has been done. Any questions?
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Can I just add something to what Chris said? On the actual ballot initiative, it states the potential projects outside of the roadways as well. So, I mean, I think we do, this is not, just a free-for-all, and no money was, listed for the library, as a matter of fact. But they are specific things, including a storm drainage system, additional drainage, the town hall front facade, town hall building renovations and repairs, the bike path extension, water infrastructure, and wastewater infrastructure. Those are the items that were listed, And I think as much as we possibly can, that's where we're going. But I think what Jim was saying was that stuff happens. And we know that it does, and we need to, we need to be able to pivot. And this is, based on what Christine just said, we didn't have the ability to pivot with certain other bonds, and this is an opportunity for us to make sure that we're doing the things in an orderly fashion, but in a logical and sensible fashion for the town. I think it's all there.
Okay. Eva, I do have one more question before, and I think it's really for James. The way this motion is written, voting on it right now, I'm taking into consideration what Chris just said, is we don't want to have our bond rating go down. We want to be able to say we have a plan for this $20 million, and we're going to authorize the bond council at the time we're ready to spend the money. But if we vote the way it's written tonight, is that authorizing all the bond to be ready right now?
Theoretically, it could, but it's not the way it works, as Chris said. You couldn't do that with the way the debt ratio works over time. It authorizes it, which is the way it happens in every bond issue, like the one in 2012 or the one more recently. This is the process that goes the way as Jim explained it. And David Farrar did recommend issuing or authorizing the 20 million, but not obviously the entire amount in one fell swoop.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's vote on the motion. So it's a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing bonds and direct the town manager to present possible prioritized projects and project schedule timeframe for the road improvement, public buildings, and other public infrastructure for the $20 million bond that was passed overwhelmingly on November 8th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No.
I'm going to abstain. I just, not that I don't want the bond, but I just want James, when you say it doesn't look like it was, but there's really no guarantee, so I'm just going to abstain. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion by Councilor Cicilline-Bonato, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi earlier, and the vote is 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is 14.1, a motion to approve to retain Michael DeSisto of DeSisto Law, LLC, to litigate the 4 unrelated case currently pending in the Washington County Superior Court, BTRI Secaucus Boulevard Investments, LLC, et al. Versus the town of Narragansett, WC-2022-0491. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second the motion.
This is going to our solicitor, Mr. Callahan. Can you go over this for us?
Yes, definitely. Give you a review. So this motion is a result of the recently filed lawsuit challenging the 4 unrelated ordinance. As we probably all know, this case, or more appropriately, this ordinance, has been lingering in some fashion since 2016. This case was litigated back in 2016 and 17 by a group of landlords, not these current landlords specifically, or they could be, but not this group. The case was defended by at least 1 solicitor, possibly 2 in 2016 and 17, then handed over to another solicitor, I believe, in 2018, where it somewhat stalled. Now this case is back before the courts again. I think that unfortunately this case was lost in some solicitor transitions in some respects. In the past 5 years, there have been other Supreme Court decisions which have affected this ordinance, we think, in a positive way. So this past fall, the town reinitiated the enforcement of the 4 unrelated ordinance, and in turn, these landlords, as Madam President stated, have filed a new lawsuit in an attempt to overturn or invalidate the 4 unrelated ordinance. So due to the travel of this case and the likelihood that it will last a long time, because either side, I think, whoever prevails is likely going to appeal, it probably makes sense the town seek outside counsel to provide legal representation in this matter. A firm or attorney devoted specifically to defend this case will allow consistency both now and in the future. And again, if the town prevails next week in the injunction, the other side will keep going in their case and appeal that decision. And if it's the other way around, the town will likely appeal that as well. So as a result of our executive session discussion a few weeks back, I contacted Michael DeSisto's law office, DeSisto Law in Providence. Their office is one of the main firms used by the Interlocal Trust in defense of municipalities in all kinds of cases, including zoning cases, employment cases, general litigation cases. Michael and his firm are excellent attorneys. They've worked for the town of Narragansett and the town of North Kingstown in multiple matters, all to success. Their firm is specially situated to help the town litigate this case because they can stay with it for a long period of time. And Michael has agreed to take on this case with your approval at the rate he charges the municipalities when he represents the interlocal trust, which is $190 per hour, which is far less than another firm or attorney would likely charge in a case such as this. And as noted in the memo, this is a legal representation, so it falls outside the bid process related to municipal contracts, so you can approve this if you so choose. I anticipate that the solicitor will work in concert with Michael and his attorneys, or his firm, to provide the town the best possible representation in this matter. So for those reasons, I've brought this to your attention, and I think it was Mr. Ferrandi who actually made the suggestion of DeSisto Law, which I think was a good one. And I think that I can hopefully answer any questions you may have.
Do any council members have questions for James? Anyone from the public? I'm sorry, I don't. There. Oh, John.
John Hanley, 10 Wilderness Drive. And if you do ever know my name, it means I'm talking too much, so this is fine. I'm 100% in support of this. I actually think it doesn't really go far enough. I think that the scope of this should be extended to have this person or law firm's help in getting back to some resolution on the 3-student ordinance, as well as to help the town, hopefully in the near future, for advice to get something on the books for the short-term rental stuff that is, if you look at like the websites, it's so out of control that the urgency of doing something is really paramount. That's all I'll say for tonight, because I'm in the mood of love and trust for the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Alba.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I think that's great advice from our town solicitor. He knows this company. He's in the business himself, so he's done due diligence. And I think we definitely have to make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, so that way we will not be, this won't end up in the courts for many, many years and appealed over and over and over again. So I think that was a very, very valid point, and I think the price is a bargain compared to some other law firms that are out there. And he has worked with North Kingstown, and he's familiar with they're familiar with Narragansett, and this is their expertise. So I'm all for this. I do feel also, when we do reach out to these attorneys, that we also hopefully this could be imposed on the Airbnbs, and it's also from a safety standpoint. God forbid you have a rental that's supposed to be like a 3-bedroom and it has 10, 11 people, and they don't have the proper equipment to mitigate fires, et cetera, egresses and entrances. that could be an issue as well. And this way here, once we have it in the books, they can't say that the town is negligent in any capacity. We're not doing due diligence. We're putting everyone on notice that, this is, for unrelated that is the limit. So thank you so much, Town Solicitor, and thank you, Council President. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Seeing none. So we are voting on motion 14.1, which is a motion to approve to retain Michael DeSisto of DeSisto Law, LLC, to litigate the 4 unrelated case currently pending in the Washington County Superior Court, BTRI, Secundit Boulevard Investments, LLC, et al. Versus the Town of Narragansett, WC 2022-0491. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion by, previously by Councilor Cecilia Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is the Town Clerk's Office. There's a motion to schedule a work session to conduct interviews for the Planning Board, with the scheduled date of January 9th, 2023, which is, I believe, is next Monday at 6 p.m.
So I just have a question. So the planning and zoning, we've made the rules that they have to interview, but Robin Plesiak is looking for reappointment, so we're gonna still interview?
I think we did that last time.
We did that last time, last council. So Robin would not have to interview, but then we would interview other candidates and then make our decision at the next
Oh, so
meeting.
she's not gonna interview?
Normally, we wouldn't, yeah, not, yeah, just any new applicants that we would interview. So the date, so this motion is to schedule work session for January 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No.
Do we make that motion?
Oh, sorry, no,
I'll
I
make
was
the
just about,
motion.
sorry.
I'll move that
Jill,
motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, sorry, I just noticed that. Okay, motion.
Can I make one comment? Should we be giving recommendations to Janet of people that we want to interview?
Yes, so any council member that would like to interview any of the candidates that have their applications on file should forward it to Janet Terrell. Okay, so this motion passed. So motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. So let's do the vote again. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is a motion to reappoint 2 individuals to the Finance Committee.
I'd like to,
Do you have any nominations?
nominate existing member, I have 2 nominations, Ron Catanzaro, number 1, and James Plattner, number 2, that are both on the board and want reappointment.
Any other nominations? So we have a motion to reappoint Ronald Catanzaro and James Plattner to the Finance Committee. Do I have a second? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0 for the reappointment of Ronald Catanzaro and James Plattner. Next on the agenda is a motion to reappoint 1 individual to the Recreation Advisory Board.
I'll move the motion.
I'll second it.
I have a nomination, the Park and Rec, because Deborah Naldi's on the list, but she is not up for reappointment, correct?
She's finished her second.
Actually, I checked with Janet, and Park and Rec terms are 3-year terms, and Deborah Allende has served 1 3-year term and 1 1-year term.
Because
So
we
she's
had
only-
to do staggered terms so that everybody didn't get off at the same time.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
So
But
she got, that was her second.
So that was her second, even on the staggered, so she really is not able to do another term. So I just wanted to be clear on that, because I was gonna nominate Brian Godano as a,
actually, I just want to clarify that with Sarah, because that was not the email I received from Janet, because I asked about this, because I was going to nominate Deborah Rinaldi because she wants to serve.
It's up to council discretion. It's your choice what you want to do. But she served one 3-year term and then 1 year because of the staggered term. So she didn't do 2 full 3-year terms like other members have.
But
Council discretion where you choose to go with that.
Okay.
So this is confusing to me, because we had discussed this when we made the decision in the last council to ensure that we were meeting the requirements of the public based on, a 2012 voting initiative to limit people to 2 terms. We then also made the determination that each term for each committee or board was going to, in many cases, we were staggering them so that we would not have the situation where an entire board was gone at the same time. We still, I think, have one of them that's close to that right now that we need to do something about. But the fact of the matter is that if we did this, then she would get a 2-year term because she already has served one of those terms, so we're back to the same problem with not staggering.
right.
And I think that was the whole objective of staggering. So, this is nothing to do with Deborah Rinaldi. I'm sure she does an excellent job on the rec board.
She's fabulous, by the way.
Exactly. So she has a lot of experience, et cetera, but this is
About being fair.
this is what we did purposefully, so I'm a little concerned about changing it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Brian Dogno. Are there any other nominations?
Do you want me to say a few things about Brian, so you guys? He's been a resident of Narragansett since 2008. He was the founder of and CEO of Raw Elements, which is that natural sunblock that we've had on the beach. He's been a senior lifeguard captain at the town beach since 1995. He is well experienced in the operations of the beach and what goes on at the beach. He's served as a senior lifeguard. He also has been the event director of the lifeguard tournaments. But besides all this wonderful expertise, he's on that beach every single day. He just knows how the beach runs, the operation. He's very familiar with the safety protocols, the waterfront, and I think he'd be an absolutely outstanding candidate to serve on that board. I think he'd be added value.
Just a quick question. Did you speak to him about this? Because remember, we were making sure that everybody could meet the second Monday, because the Rec Advisory Board meets the second Monday of the month at 5:30 p.m. Would that be, I don't know if anyone
didn't
asked.
ask him that,
Okay.
speak to him about that, but I'm sure. He seemed excited to want to, his application's been in a bit, so I know he's excited to participate, and I'm sure he can make that. He works days.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion to appoint?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Deborah Rinaldi.
Second the motion.
Okay, does anybody? Okay, so we're going to vote on that. Okay. So motion to appoint Deborah Rinaldi. Counselor Cicely Bonanno.
So I'm confused.
So we have
So-
to vote on each one. So there's going to be 2 people. So you nominated and.
So I
we're gonna
nominated
make You
Brian.
can make a motion. You have to make a motion for that. And somebody has to second your motion too. But first, Jill made a motion to reappoint Deborah Rinaldi. So we're going to vote on that motion. So.
Can I
we'll start-
speak to that motion?
Yeah.
Okay. I have an email from Janet dated December 8th, 2022, asking her about this, because this is the first, it came up earlier. This is Janet's response. Hi, Deb. The date was October 4th, 2021, when, her second, that was when she was reappointed. Anyone reappointed after 10/4/2021 is reappointed for the second term, possibly last term. Reappointment is at the discretion of the council if there are no other viable applicants. So, Sarah, you're right, it is at the discretion of the council, but specifically if there are no other viable applicants. So I think that's, I don't know what your email was, Jill, but that's
Yeah.
what I have.
No, my email from her was different. She said she only served just exactly what Sarah had just said, but Sarah did indicate it's up to the discretion of the council, so I guess we should vote on it.
And Janet just, in your email, said if there
It's
were no
right-
other applicants,
It's
which
right here.
there are, right? I love Deb, but there are other applicants and her term is technically up, right? So,
I mean, this is a problem.
Okay, so let's just take the vote on, so the vote is
So
for...
I'd like to read Janet's email as well. Hi, Jill, you were correct in the terms that Deborah Riley served. Her first term was 3 years, and the second term was only 1 year. So she's not saying she can't serve. So I'd like to push this forward.
Okay, but it is a second term.
And a question on that as well. So I was here when the last council voted on the 2012 motion by the town. It wasn't even a motion, it was an authority of the town to enforce boards and commissions to have term limits. And I was here that night that you decided not to, once it was found out that it hadn't been enforced, you decided not to go ahead and enforce the term limits, but give everybody else another term. I don't know that that was ever codified, Sarah, with the rules of the town. I don't know if there was ever a reading to say that that town law would go now in this manner, or if it was just a decision that was made by that council that night. Because it seems to me, I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we were here talking about someone who had served for 19 years, and there was a feeling by someone on the council to reappoint for 19 years. We have someone here who served for 4 years. Her qualifications are not beach-related, but more recreation-related. She's a physical ed teacher from Narragansett. She's got a whole lot of experience. The chair of the rec department is here. He sent an email to the council asking for her reappointment. So I don't understand why we're not going to want to allow someone to serve when she's only served 4 years.
Because we had to find a way to enact something that should have been enacted now 10 years ago. And it wasn't enacted 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, until last year. So the thinking of this council was that we had to, it was either that or, pretty much 2/3 of the people who are on boards, commissions, and committees would have to be eliminated and reset. So, in our thinking, it was better to do that than to either do nothing or eliminate large numbers of people from their positions and, leave all of that expertise and knowledge off. And I understand what you're saying about Deb, because she has expertise and knowledge. That's absolutely correct. But you got to start somewhere, and that was the logic. The codification happened in 2012. That's the bottom line. And if we don't follow this, then we're not following, I believe it's an ordinance, and that's, that could lead to other kinds of problems. I think we have to, I mean, I don't want to do it, but I think we have to do it. And that's what we got elected to do, is to follow the rules, the requirements, the ordinances, all of the charter, and this is one way to make sure that we have that. We just finished talking about that in terms of the
Deb,
rules.
I understand completely what's going on here, and I understand from the last council what happened, and I don't agree with what you did during that meeting, actually not following the change that the town had asked for. So
Maybe it should have been done before then, but
it
we
should have
did the
been done
best we
before
could.
then. No, you're
We
right.
did the best we could.
And just so happened it didn't. So, but I don't think that an applicant who's only been on our board for 4 years should suffer for this. But that's my opinion.
Can we
My
call
one
a
vote.
Okay, so motion to appoint Deborah Rinaldi to the Rec Advisory Board. We'll go Councilor Cicely Bonanno.
I love Deb, but nay.
Councilor Ferrandi.
Aye.
Councilor Kopek.
Nay.
Councilor.
Aye.
Councilor, myself, Eva, I'm going to say nay, just to follow the rules. Motion fails 3 Two in favor, 3 opposed, motion fails. Is there a second?
Yeah, I have that
Yes,
nomination.
I nominate Dennis Lynch.
And I had Brian Gadano up.
I'll second the nomination for Dennis Lynch.
I think we already seconded the other nomination, but if not, I seconded the Brian Guadano, sorry.
Okay, so we didn't first and second, nobody put a motion on for Brian Gadano. So we're going to have to do the motion for Dennis Lynch. So that was motion by Jill and seconded
Excuse me,
by.
point of order, I think Susan did
I
nominate
did
him
put Brian up.
when we
so-
started.
You nominated him, you didn't do the motion, though. Or did I not hear the motion, Sarah?
Nominated.
I nominated him.
Yeah,
I
but you have
heard
to
the
do a
nomination. I
motion
haven't heard
to
anybody make a
appoint.
motion for it yet.
So there's usually, the process is usually nominate, everybody nominates, and then we discuss the nominations, and then we make a motion to appoint.
Right.
And then at that point, unless I missed it, there was no motion made to appoint Ryan. So we can go to the next motion where there was a motion by Counselor Lawler and seconded by Counselor Ferranti to appoint Dennis Lynch to the Record Advisory Board. So we'll do a vote. Counselor Cicilline Buonanno.
Nay.
This, which
Counselor
nomination is this for?
No, it's not a nomination, we're appointing. This
Okay,
is
yeah,
for appointment
For Dennis.
for
Okay.
Dennis Lynch.
Aye for Dennis Lynch.
Counselor Kopech.
Nay.
Aye.
Counselor Lawyer. I mean, I like Dennis. I'm going to say yes. So motion passes to appoint Dennis Lynch to the Rec Advisory Board, 3-1. Next on the agenda is a motion to reappoint up to 3 individuals to the Historical Cemetery Commission. Do we have
Do you want a motion or a nomination?
motion to appoint? We just need
I would make a
want
motion to
nominations?
reappoint.
Yeah, nominations. So we have here, I mean, I can just say that we have currently 1 application on file from Tony Jones. There's Josephine Carubia is on there. She can have another appointment date, I believe. And then there's a vacancy by Lindsay McGovern, another vacancy. So do I have any nominations?
Well, I would nominate the reappointment of Josephine Carubia.
I'll
Is there
second
a
that.
second?
Is that a motion or a nomination? Sorry, we
Well, I guess that was a nomination, so we'll make a
Okay,
motion
anyone want
to nominate
to another?
Josephine.
Okay, so we're going to finish this one. So does anybody
Yeah,
want to
let's do that.
make a motion to appoint or reappoint
Josephine
Joseph
Carubia.
Carubia
Yes.
to the Historical Cemetery Commission?
So moved.
Second the motion.
Okay, so that was motion by Counselor Kopech, seconded by Counselor Ferranti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Appointed 5-0. Is there any other nominations, or are we going to just hold off on that? So it's up to
Well,
3.
I'll nominate Tony Jones.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion? Do I just nominate?
Yeah.
All right, so
Make
motion
the motion.
by Counselor Kopech. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we appointment of Tony Jones, motion by Counselor Kopech, seconded by Counselor Lawler. Motion passes 5-0. And then the last item on the agenda for tonight is a motion to reappoint 2 individuals from the public and confirm appointment of 6 employee representatives to the pension board.
Move the motion.
Second the motion.
Okay, so this is for we have the list here of appointing John Del Arario, Mike DeLuca, Ryan Saber, Brent Kuzman, Stacy Gorman, Dan Holland, and Mary Jane Gray. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. So motion by Counselor Cicilline Buonanno, seconded by Counselor Ferrandi. Motion passes 5-0. We have a motion to adjourn.
Wait, we have two
Motion to
persons.
adjourn.
We have two people from the public.
Oh,
for
I'm
pension
sorry.
board.
Does anybody have,
From the pension board, we have two public nominations. Member of the public, we have a reappointment, I believe, and I'd also like to nominate Doug McLaughlin.
I'll second that. I'm sorry. Motion.
Excuse me,
Aye.
Council President, just for the record, Mr. DeLuca has declined reappointment for the position,
okay.
and they had recommended that Patty Rosa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
last spot.
Okay, so let's go back to that motion. So the motion to reappoint 2 individuals from the public and confirm appointment of 6 employee representatives to the pension board. So 2 individuals from the public. Do I have nominations?
I nominate Doug McLaughlin.
Second.
He's on the Galilee Advisory Committee,
Yeah, so if there's other people that
and there's,
are interested, they go before Doug McLaughlin.
yeah. That's usually how that goes.
Based on the
Yeah, it's
rules.
just, these things are really confusing. So maybe I would nominate, the other 2 are not, right? Mark Connor and Brian, I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
Brian Lady.
Lady.
And you're going to nominate them? As the 2, and I'll second that.
Consider it a nomination, and now you can consider it a motion.
Has
Which
any,
needs seconding.
I haven't had a chance to speak to them. Do you know them?
I don't know them.
We could also table it. to
Yeah,
the
maybe we
next-
should
You
do
want to
that.
table it?
Yeah.
And get some information?
Okay, somebody want
let's-
to make a motion to table or continue to the next meeting?
Yeah.
Potentially.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion was to continue to the next scheduled meeting, which was
But do we still have
January
to,
17th.
do we still have to do Patty? Do a motion for Patty? Or did you include that? I don't know how that, I want to make sure we got it right. We need to do Patty, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just make that motion.
Okay, so we'll make a motion to appoint, so for Michael DeLuca, we're going to appoint Patty Russa
In his place.
in his place.
In that
Motion
position.
by Counselor Kopek, and
I'll
then,
second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Motion by Counselor Kopek, seconded by Counselor Cicilline Buonanno. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do we need anyone else? Okay. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion made by Counselor Cicilline Buonanno.